computer geek, and I became a journalist. So in 1996, I designed my first website. It was HTML, complete with the cheesy dancing graphics and the fireworks. In high school, I ended up being the vice president for the internet webpage of our computer support team. A bunch of other executives ended up falling out, and I all of a sudden was running the school's network with 1,500 users. And I actually had a master key for all doors in the school, which was somewhat fun to drop your bag at lunch in your class and then lock it back up. For 3 years, I was completely off the web. I joined the Army, and at the time, you couldn't have your own personal website. You could have your own email, but you couldn't have your own website. They hadn't get past the regulations. 2004, I got out just in time to tried to buy joecoleman.ca. It was gone, so I ended up with joeycoleman.ca and went back to being Joey, which gives you an idea of how much the web rules my life. In 2005, I started blogging on higher ed out of my own interest. 2007, I get a call from Maclean's magazine. They want to hire me as a reporter. And the title was assistant editor or associate editor. I said, no, I'm a blogger. And eventually we negotiated. My title was reporter/blogger, which was on my business cards. And in 2007, you can imagine going to places with the Maclean's business card that said blogger. There was some fun incidents. Presently, I work for the Globe and Mail on contract doing blogging for them. Now, for those of you who follow the Hamilton Spectator, I was there for 4 months last summer on a contract. The live video stream of Hamilton City Council was me. The live updates on Twitter, the use of Google Maps, that type of stuff. But I have no involvement presently with the Hamilton Spectator. I don't know why those photos are there. They're supposed to be deleted, and this is a glitch, obviously. But what the photo is...
Sorry, what technology are you using for that?
This is Google Presentations.
Okay.
And obviously, when I previewed it, I didn't get this. I was actually going to have some pictures of my political involvement, and that's what that is. But there is a line of telephone operators. And the question I ask, are journalists the operators or the connectors? The cables that connect. The operators don't exist anymore, but the cables do. The number of operators has exponentially decreased, yet the number of routers and cables has exponentially increased. The growth is being the connection, not being the gatekeeper. And the thing with open data and the web that's really changing journalism is it's destroying the symbiotic relationship between politicians and journalists, which is, in my opinion, the best thing that's ever happened in journalism. Because journalists became too close to politicians. They relied upon politicians to feed them information. And politicians relied upon journalists to feed the public the information that they were giving to the journalists. Web 2.0 removed the journalists from the equation for politicians. They no longer needed the journalists to reach the public. And we're starting to see that more and more in this campaign. If you follow the journalists, they're just telling you the pre-scripted press releases of the various campaigns. The campaigns ditch the journalists and go speak to the communities they want to individually. The semantic web, Web 3.0, is going to make the politician unnecessary for journalists. If we have data, we don't need the politicians anymore. Both politicians and journalists benefited from closed data. For politicians, it's not that they're nefarious. They prefer to work without people watching because then people aren't bothering them with questions. And we are all that way. At work, sometimes we close our office door if we have that because we don't want people bothering us. We'd rather just be focused. Citizens, journalists, we benefited from closed data because what little data there was had high value. It's much like crude oil. Data is crude for journalists. And the less is available for refining, the more valuable it is. We're mining the oil sands not because it's high quality crude, but because it's valuable crude. And it's been much the same way with journalism. We've been mining data. We didn't care if it was good quality. It was valuable. That's all that mattered. Open data is making for open government. As more data gets out there, government becomes more accountable. Citizens can be more engaged in government and create a better society. It's happening locally and nationally, both with citizens and with government. More and more we're starting to see initiatives. I use the Toronto local, but I find the Ottawa case to be quite the most interesting, where the City of Ottawa adopted an open data policy. The city's IT department said, Transit data, people want that. Threw it out there. It went out there, and OC Transpo was embarrassed because they kept reporting a 92% on-time average, and a data journalist at the Ottawa Citizen took the GPS records and realized, no, you've only got 54%. And then he took it a step further. He found out how they got 92%. And what they did is they excluded all the major routes that had problems with running on time and picked 3 hours a day with a couple of selected routes and said that's our on-time performance. The transit agency has pulled the plug on the data, but they're going to have to put it back on because the revolt that's coming from council and citizens. And I sort of like that. It's this thing where benevolent IT people said, here's the policy, we're going to follow it, and then the bureaucrats at transit said, wait, people are calling and we can't say no, the bus is on time, because they can prove it's not. Journalists, we fought Web 1.0, we fought Web 2.0, and I don't understand this in journalism, and I never grasped it, and I've had so many fights over this. We continue to fight the internet. You know, we've been doing it for 15 years, and thus far we haven't won a battle. We've never changed our strategy, and yet we keep losing. The thing is that what's funny is now journalists blog, they tweet, some even stream stuff, and some newspapers even use the dreaded blogging CMSs. I mean, I remember when I was hired by McLean's, there was this huge controversy about a blogger being hired as a journalist. How was that compatible? And we had a proprietary web system that I couldn't stand. And eventually when we moved to WordPress, in my section, the rest of the web sections went, hey, wait a second, we should be using this. And we see the National Post Media, for example, is using WordPress, and they're doing an amazing job of it. The question now is, journalists, will we fight Web 3.0? Or will we lead the fight for Web 3.0? Will we fight against the web stuff, or are we going to be the ones that say, hey, you know what, we need all the data possible, we're going to push and fight for it? Encouragingly, it looks like we're going to join the fight. The train has already left the station. Thankfully for us, the tracks are bumpy, and we can just catch up in our horse and buggy and get on the train. Some media outlets are leading, especially in the United Kingdom. The Guardian, I assume you all know their data blog. Channel 4, which is a TV station, has funded Scraper Winking. And this is amazing. I was just blown away. It's basically a site where they have the tools to scrape data, and they'll help you write a script and run it from their server to scrape data on any website. And so scraperwinky.com, it's one of those things where the great thing too is you can share how you scrape data. Now, this is where my slides were at. This is actually the other edge of open data that I love. I see he's recording this, I know I'm going to get flack. These are from a site called journalism.co.uk. And what it is it's a site where you can put in any journalistic article, and it will rate it based upon data on the web. Is it a rewrite of a press release? Is it a rewrite of a PR agency's stats? Is it a rewrite of government? Where is this coming from, and how much of it is original? I was very fortunate when I was hired at McLean's. I covered higher education. So the idea of ever copying a news release, we couldn't do. Because in higher ed, the worst offense is the term plagiarism. And so we always had to be mindful of that. And it's not plagiarism when it's intended for you to reuse. But the point is there. And I really enjoyed this logo. Warning, this article is basically just a press release, copy and paste. And there's actually a group of people in Britain who go around the newspaper stands and do this. Non-government data. Now this is where open data can really go. Sports data. Sports fans are fanatics about data and statistics. That's why the paper still has a full page of stats. Imagine having those statistics in real time. You've got your iPad in the stands and you can say, so-and-so has caught this many passes today, this many yards, they're this many yards away from breaking a record. The possibilities are endless. Imagine on the TV screen that you have your TV, and now there's a side chat going on TSN about the statistics of the game. Universities. This is where we're going next, I think, is beyond municipal data. Universities, everybody wants to compare universities, their data. Imagine what's possible when you can compare university data in open data sets. Hospitals. This is something that I'm really excited about. Hospitals are now falling under freedom of information, and they're panicked, much like the universities. The problem is that the universities fought freedom of information, lost. Hospitals cannot fight the same battles. But imagine when we finally have hospitals under freedom of information, that we can actually have data about infection rates, patient care, wait times, budgets. I know I personally can't wait to see hospital executives' contracts. Peter George's $99,999 a year for 14 years. Retirement bonus, which is $1 less than what's required to be disclosed by law at the time that his contract was signed. That came out through freedom of information. I'm waiting to see what we find in from the hospitals. And that's my closing is basically that I'm really excited about open data because I think it's going to bring journalism back to what it should be. And it's going to enable us to have more data. And what we need to do as journalists is bring our specialized skill set in understanding how government works and how society works and how information works to the table and work collaboratively as part of the community finally to make people more informed. And it provides one heck of an opportunity for us. Finally, the web is going to what we can do really well. And Web 3.0 could finally be the reboot of journalism that we need. So I thank you. I probably went over the 5 minutes.